What's up, guys? Welcome into a Week 5 edition of Chargers Weekly. Alongside Matt Money Smith, Chris Hayre here with you. Chargers 3-1, and I know they prepared, and I know that they were ready to play, but I don't think they would have won without the air drum by Matt Money Smith to kick off Monday Night Football. I just talked to you about it. I promise you, I think that set the tone for the night, Money.
You know what? As I said off camera after DJ was like, hey, dude, the video's got 190,000 views after about 15 minutes when he had posted it. I said, look, I'm your monkey, DJ. You tell the monkey to dance, the monkey dances. That's how this thing works. And happy we could set the tone and the Chargers could piggyback on our popularity and deliver something else that the people wanted to consume on Monday night. Coincidentally,
I'm wearing DJ's Move the Stick shirt. Go to his Twitter account. I think it's approaching 1 million views now. We have local stations around the country asking for permission to use it. I mean, it was quite the scene. I thought Justin Herbert was going to be center stage Monday night. It was Matt Money Smith.
Yeah. Well, some of us can air drum better than others. And when you see exceptional air drumming, you can't help but consume it, appreciate it, and share it with the rest of the world. And I'm happy I could play my little part.
Buddy, how fun was Monday night, especially to go up 21-0 and really make a statement in the AFC West. You come off beating the Chiefs, and then you say, okay, 3 straight touchdowns against the Raiders.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to hide it. These are the games I want the Chargers to win more than any other. The 2 every year, beat the Raiders. I feel Raider week. I feel it in the players. I feel it from the fans. As the play-by-play voice of the Chargers radio broadcast, I feel it too. I hate the Raiders, when they face, and I'll qualify that, when they face the Chargers, there is a different vibe to the opponent. There just is. And I think it permeates the organization, the fan base. I embrace it. I love rivalries. I love that Joey Bosa I love that Derek Carr got after the Chargers and talking about home games in San Diego and home games in LA. And this is our time. I love planting those nefarious seeds. And I love Joey Bosa going right back at him and saying, hey, look, he got shook. And we love getting him shook. It's great. And, I don't love Derek Carr feeling like he's got to puff his chest out and come back at Joey. What's the old saying? When you lose, say nothing. When you win, say less. Wear the loss. Just get back and roll with your guys. And they're the only ones that matter to you, DC. But no, he had to go back. So now we've got this week 18, 17th game of the season to look forward to. So, yeah, to say I enjoyed it would be an understatement. I thoroughly enjoyed that game. And you know what? I liked that the Raiders made a comeback and made it interesting. And it got a little tense there in the third quarter. There was great energy at SoFi Stadium all night. I mean, it really was a good freaking time. It was a lot of fun.
I agree with you 100%. I love that Carr said what he said, and I love that Joey went back at him. This game hasn't meant anything in almost 20 years, Money. So, you talk to guys like LT and Sean Merriman, they hate the Raiders. They love beating the Raiders. And to have this rivalry kind of mean something, I know it's early in the year, but, Raiders were 3-0, Chargers 2-1. I remember growing up when it was Redskins Cowboys, and the We Want Dallas chant. I mean, that's the type of stuff throughout the week that gets fans engaged, excited. The hugs in the lower bowl when you score a touchdown. I mean, I really felt like it was almost a little bit of throwback football on Monday night, just because of the talk leading up to it and the way the Chargers responded to beating the Chiefs and really taking this game really seriously when it comes to wanting to beat the Raiders.
Yeah, look, I think I echo everything you say. I just want to make one additional point, because I go back to last year. There were no fans in the stadium. So depending on what the television put on the broadcast, I don't know if fans saw it. But, in the game that the Chargers, we thought won, because the Parham catch was signaled touchdown, and they're celebrating. The Raiders are starting to get shaky and fall apart a little bit after this nice start, and their playoff hopes are starting to come into, getting a little blurry now after being pretty clear focus. A lot of people thought they were going to make the playoffs last year, so that would have been a huge punch for them to take at that time. So understandably, the Chargers are celebrating in the end zone. Call gets overturned, and the entire Raiders sideline rushes the field. You've got at least 10, 15 players doing the little airplane thing along the Chargers sideline, really rubbing it in. And I think that planted the seed. I think that got under the Chargers' skin a little bit. They end up winning the overtime game in Vegas with the I was in play, and you could see how much that meant to them to get that win, to kind of be part of that 4-game win streak to close the season. So I think we, as you said, I think we started to see the seeds of this rivalry, some green shoots were sprouting last year. And man, if this is kind of where it's headed, it's going to be awesome. And I think that's the same with the Chiefs. Kind of the point I'm getting at here, Chris, is I think we would like nothing more than for every time the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Raiders see the Chargers on their schedule, it feels like a rivalry game. And all of them start arguing like, yeah, you know what? This is the biggest one of the year. Chargers, circle it. These are our 2 biggest games. I would love to see the Chargers get back to that like they were in the 2000s with Merriman and LaDainian Tomlinson, where of all the teams in the AFC West, this is the one the opponent is circling is we got to win these. And it feels like it's starting to trend in that direction.
We talked about this on our Final Drive podcast. I want to ask you, I remember last year when the Chargers won 4 straight to end the year, and people were saying like, oh, why are you winning? Let's get a better draft pick, or it's, these are empty wins. You look now, Justin Herbert has won his last 5 starts in the division. How much, if any, do you think that winning those games, winning that I was in game in Vegas on Thursday night, I know Mahomes wasn't in the Week 17 game, but you beat Denver at home, you beat the Raiders, you beat the Chiefs. And then I feel like there's a little bit of a just like, hey, we can do this. And it did carry over a little bit. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Well, no, I don't. I think specific to Justin Herbert, it was incredibly important because remember, the 4-game win streak followed the 45-0 destruction at the hands of the Patriots. So you're coming off that game, and that was the first of the 4 straight wins. So I think it was important, like, oh, hey, the win over the Falcons isn't a fluke. We're going to back that up with a win over the Raiders in Vegas. Is they're still have an outside shot at making the playoffs. And, you close with those 3 straight win over division opponents. Also, I think the way that the season had played out, right? And the way that the team lost to the Saints in overtime, lost to the Chiefs in his first start, lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after being up 24-3. I think there's too much losing for Justin Herbert. So, I do think there is something to figuring out how to win games, how to close games, how to have 4th quarter drives or overtime drives in the case of that Raiders game that end up leading to wins. And look, I don't think it's coincidental that the guy already has 2 4th quarter drives for wins this year. I do think there is carryover there. And I believe those 4 games. And look, I think this goes to, just if you believe in football karma or anything, I think karmically, Rashawn Slater should have been a top 5 pick, and he slid to the Chargers at 13. Derwin James should have been a top 5 pick, and he slid to the Chargers at 17 when they went 9-7. And, after starting 0-4, and everyone was like, oh, throw in the towel, get a great pick. These things have a way of working out. You should never want to lose games in the NFL. There's too few of them, and there's too much to take away from victories.
Speaking of Derwin James, we were waiting for that pick, his first interception since that Sunday night game at Pittsburgh in 2018, really sealed the deal. And buddy, we're doing this every year. Picks for Popeyes. Every Chargers game this season, Chargers D gets an interception. You show your game recap email to your local Popeyes and get a free chicken sandwich when you purchase a chicken sandwich at regular menu price. I told you, Asante had him eating last week. Darwin's got him eating this week. And, the defense specifically, man, the first half, 1 first down for the Raiders. After the first quarter, 0 yards, 0 first downs. Something was working. They bottled up the run game. And like Joey said, they got to Carr early and often. And I really think that set the tone.
Look, Joey loves playing the Raiders. Joey, he embraces it, man, and he loves playing Derek Carr. He is not, and I get it. He plays him twice a year, and Carr's been the quarterback that's been here the longest, with Joey. But he sacked him 7 times, and he's probably hit him 70 times. He loves it, and that set the tone. And I think he's absolutely right. That was not the Derek Carr that we saw in the first 3 games, who would stand tall in the pocket, deliver the ball downfield, led the league in 20-plus air yard completions. He wanted none of it. He was turning it all down, on a 4th and whatever it was. I think it was a 4th and 6 or something. he got, he threw it short of the sticks, which is something that, if you believe kind of what a lot of people say, drives Gruden crazy about Derek Carr, and why seemingly every offseason you would hear about the Raiders being around some of these quarterback trades, in the conversation in the Matt Stafford deal. And it seemed like he was able to get past that because he had an awesome first 3 games. There's no denying it. I mean, the guy was spreading the ball around. Henry Ruggs was a deep threat. And that's why I think so many people, and look, I don't care what Joey says if it offends somebody. If he's speaking the truth, he's speaking the truth. So what? The guy has a bad game. Derek Carr had a terrible game. He had a good third quarter, and he had 3 terrible quarters. And there's no way around that. And Joey just brought that up. No, look, the guy's just got to shake it off. He's got the Bears this week, bounce back and get back to win. But there's nothing wrong with Joey saying, you get in that guy's lap and you get in there regularly and he turns into a different player. And I think we saw that. And just to kind of add what your actual question was, Chris, is I thought whoever ran the ball effectively was going to win this game because I figured both ends were going to probably play a big role. Both defensive ends, be Max Crosby, Ngakoue, Joey, and whomever else was opposite of him were going to have good days, or good nights, I should say. It was Monday Night Football. And sure enough, the run blocking of the O-line and the way Austin Eckler ran was freaking awesome.
It was. And now you bring in an opponent in the Cleveland Browns who have the best rushing attack in football. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. This is another tough test. This may be the toughest test so far for the Bolts, Money.
Well, what I'm anxious to see and what we have seen, and this is to me what's so impressive about Brandon Staley and Ronaldo Hill and his whole staff, whatever they have a plan, and the plan is not statistically based. It is points based. What is our defensive approach in order to win this game and prevent points from being scored? Ultimately, when you strip the defense down to its bones, what is the point of defense? To prevent forward progress at the goal line. That's the point. So last week, or on Monday night, I should say, the goal was shut down the run game. We feel like we're fine with explosive plays. This isn't the Chiefs. We're good at letting them take their shots here and there. Let's lock up Darren Waller and let's shut down the run game. And man, they shut that run game down. Linval had a huge game. Tillery played great. Joey Bosa was awesome. And man, I cannot say enough about Kaiser White and Drew Tranquill, specifically Tranquill. Tranquill is a freaking monster. The way he times his blitzes, his run fills, his ability to diagnose as quickly as he does, Staley cut him loose. And it was clear that it was a different plan this week, and it held him to under 3 yards per carry. So I'm anxious to see, you look at it and it's like, oh, Chargers have the number 29 run defense. Like, that was by design now against the Cowboys, and that was by design against the Chiefs. So I'm anxious to see what he's dialing up here for these Browns, considering, they got 2 backs that are carrying the ball over 5 yards per carry in Hunt and Chubb.
And it's worth noting, no Justin Jones, no Kenneth Murray Jr., no Chris Harris Jr. So 3 key starters out, and to still sustain that performance against the Raiders, pretty impressive. Buddy, we got a great show today. Joe Reedy, Associated Press, knows the Browns, knows the Chargers. He's going to join us. Brandon Thorn, I love this guy. Offensive line, defensive line expert. I think this game is going to be decided in the trenches. He's going to have some good insight on Slater, Garrett, Clowney, Bosa, and just the Chargers offensive line in general through the first quarter of the season. But we're going to start with the great Kevin Harlan, who's going to be on the call with Trent Green this Sunday on CBS. Well, buddy, it's always a treat when Kevin Harlan's on the call. We get him back to back. And Kevin, what a big game early in the season. The Browns coming to SoFi Stadium, a battle of 3-1 teams.
Well, I think it's one of the best games on the schedule. We love doing up and coming emerging teams, and certainly the Chargers have kind of been in that position now for the last year since Justin's arrived. And now there's a new coach and just a stellar roster and a wonderful team and some terrific wins. The one in Kansas City was great. So we consider it, Trent Green and I, Melanie Collins, our sideline person, we consider it an honor to do the teams that are kind of, like now taking center stage. And that's certainly what the Chargers are doing.
Kevin, you got to see it on Monday night. And look, you saw Justin Herbert. You've seen Justin Herbert before, but just being able to see the progression and kind of as you call games and you see great quarterbacks week in, week out, you always have great games to call. Just kind of where you think Justin is in that conversation of playing quarterback at a high level in this league.
I think, I think he is right there. I can't think of, it's interesting. All these great quarterbacks have a thing that they do that is just staying in their lane. The way Rodgers plays, the way Mahomes plays, and the way Justin plays. They've got this certain style of playing that is unto themselves, and that's kind of how Justin is. Now, look at we're all three of us are football history fans as well as what's going on now, and he looks like the traditional quarterback. Like if you had to take 10 scouts, the best scouts in pro football, and say design the perfect quarterback. Well, he's got to be tall. He's got to have a big arm. He'll stand in the pocket. He'll take a hit. He can read and make his progressions. He has a command in the huddle. He is a locker room presence. Like it seems like this kid has he checks every box, and it's amazing. I think we forget that he was taken as high as he was because around the draft that he was taken in, his name, while prominent, was not like the most prominent in terms of quarterbacking. And here he is, as ahead of schedule and playing spectacular football. And he's a joy to watch. And what I guess I find as endearing as anything is he seems humble. He seems like not too taken by the moment. The light's not too bright. And he's just this calm, even presence. And there's another quarterback I think of like that. His name was Tom Brady. And Brady just kind of doesn't blink, same expression, leads, doesn't have to be the loudest voice, but is the strongest voice. And he has those kind of markings to me.
Kevin, I don't know how much you knew about Brandon Staley coming into this year. Obviously, the Rams had the number one defensive football last year, but what he's brought to this organization so early on, there's a sense of belief, I think, in all three phases. This team seems very connected and together. Just your assessment of what you've seen from Coach Staley and just maybe any conversations you had with him.
We've only met with him once, and that was last year. We did a Rams game, and he had, of course, the terrific D we're talking about, and it was on Zoom, so I can't say it's face-to-face. But what I can tell you is that there is a certain presence about these young coaches. Now, I'm not sure if being around Sean McVay gives them a roadmap to follow in terms of how they conduct themselves, how they communicate with players, the media, and everybody else. But Matt LaFleur and certainly Brandon have got that quality that when they walk in a room or that when they enter a situation, all of a sudden that, this guy is someone, of prominence, of talent, of high regard. I heard him the other day with Dan Patrick, and he, like his quarterback, comes across very humble and not too taken by the moment, secure and confident with a nice, easy way about him. And certainly what he does on the field with X's and O's and defense is carrying over. It's interesting. He had Ndamukong Suh and Ramsey, and now he's got Bosa and he's got Derwin, right? So he's got like these, I don't know if you call them bookends or what, top and bottom, what, front and back, whatever, but he's got these two important components. When you got someone who can shut down a quarter of the field and an edge rusher, those are two big important things to notch, and he has done that again. And as you two don't know, when you get momentum in this league, it is very hard to stop it.
Kevin, oftentimes for whatever reason, we like to make comparisons of players to cars, but for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to ask you to do it to boats. If you had to describe Myles Garrett as a boat, what kind of boat would he be?
I think he'd be he'd be a formula. He would be one of those things with so much power and an engine that wouldn't stop, that he could slice through any kind of wave or water or weather and make it work. He just has a He is a lot of things. First of all, he's very bright, thoughtful, and introspective. And I think you mentioned, like history and the league and the great edge rushers before him. He has a wonderful feel for that. The other day we talked to him and we asked him if he watches tape on other current and past defensive ends, edge rushers, pocket pressure guys, and he mentioned the Joey Bosa's, but he also went back and talked about like the Carl Ellers and the Bruce Smiths. So this is a guy who is number 1 overall pick, big money player, and has the prominent headline role on that Cleveland defense, which is as good as any in football, and yet goes about his business as a business. He is very, into angles and how he comes out of the chute and what his other guys in the line are supposed to do and how he needs to adapt his play to what others do well, and always studying who's across the line, left tackles or right tackles. They'll move him around a little bit. And he has a book that he keeps on all these guys. Now he's going up against a rookie this week, which will be fun. And I love that kid, by the way. He's a wonderful young player and going to be a great tackle in this league. But Myles Garrett is a game changer. And even when he is not getting the quarterback, he is pressuring it so the times now are off rhythm and quarterbacks are forced to move their platform. And he is just he's a guy that falls in line with the movement of the defense. So if he knows that the pressure is going to be geared toward the middle on a particular play, he knows now that his assignment may be changed, but he'll do it the best he possibly can do. And guys like that are unselfish, realize where they stand and how important they are, but just go about trying to be the best for their teammates. And they've got a tough defensive line. Matt, I'm sure, Chris, you guys have studied the line. This defense is this is no one's day in the park. They are tough and rugged, and that battle in the trenches will be significant on Sunday.
Kevin, you said something in an interview with me a few years ago that's always stuck with me when it comes to just September football. It's like you almost throw out the first quarter of the season because we're trying to figure everything out. Tackling sloppy, there's penalties, teams don't necessarily know each other that well. With all that being said, as we get into October, the fact that the Chargers have a new coaching staff, new schemes, and they're winning. They're 3-1. They're 2-0 in the AFC West. And it looks to be that they're ascending right now. Just how important is it to just kind of figure it out in September as teams really start to gel coming into October and beyond?
Well, I believe that for a variety of reasons, Chris. Number one, the lack of hitting in the offseason, the lack of time these staffs have with their players, including a brand new staff, like you said, with the Chargers. And then even in camp now, you don't hit as much, and guys are not playing as many minutes or snaps and games in the preseason, which are now cut by 1 down to 3. So everything is being trimmed. And so it's almost as if they're requiring more for the players in terms of being in shape and football ready and knowing the playbook once they step foot on that campus or in the facility for the beginning of training camp, and then using, unfortunately, it's kind of the way the game is set up in player health, which we all get and appreciate, but learning, a lot about what you're next to, how you're working as a position group and how you're working as a offense or defense as the month of September goes by. And in the old days, the coaches would tell you, you really don't know what you have until the middle or first portion of October. Now, I think it is truly the middle of October and maybe even a bit beyond. I think you're still wondering how much the rookie has in the tank and what kind of bandwidth they have to maneuver around a new playbook, offensive or defensive, how their body sustains the rigors of an NFL game and its speed and physicality. And then just the mental awareness you've got to have, like I said before, of what's going on and the depth and the way that this game progresses week by week. The playbook expands, the plays get deeper, the knowledge has to grow with that depth. And there's like all this stuff going on that these young players are required to do to operate in today's NFL, which has never been more complex and more diverse in terms of schemes and sub packages and all this stuff going on. So I guess I feel like until you get, through those first 2 months, or certainly well into the month of October, coaching staffs are still kind of experimenting with schemes and position groups to figure out where they fit, what works best with who, and how they all kind of melt together. You get a veteran team that has been together, Green Bay kind of comes to mind. Others, Kansas City's basically said, although they got a brand new offensive line, as you guys saw, a couple of weeks ago, they're still trying to figure things out. Even the best of the best are constantly evolving. So I guess that's what we love about the game. There's something new every week. Things can happen over the course of a week, which can change the direction of a Sunday game and put you and propel you some way, either plus or minus. I guess we're still, Chris, getting a long-winded answer to your question. Just we're still in that mode of really not knowing who you are until the middle of October for sure.
Last thing for me, Kevin, and you're always so generous with your time. So I may have asked you before, but I don't think I have. And I'm guessing a lot of people listening would like to know, or maybe I just would like to know, being a play-by-play guy that looks up to you and respects the heck out of what you do and appreciates how you do it. Have you always been willing to commit to the moment, to ad-lib in the moment, to improvise with what's going on the field? So many producers tell you, ignore that, ignore the cat, ignore the guy running on the field, ignore, it's a football broadcast. You know how programmers are. They're stiff. They're not talent, Kevin. They're not talent like you. They don't know what the people want. And you're the guy that really has been willing to just cut right through it and say, no, I know what the people like. Have you always done it, or because of your reputation and the respect you have, do you feel like you can say, listen, just trust me. I know what I'm doing. Let me do this. This is the way it should be done. Because, man, it's the best. It is just the best.
Well, coming from you, man, who I respect so much, I appreciate that. No, I don't ask for permission. And as you know, in radio, when you're doing radio, you're really in the weeds, right? On the call, like you're calling, all right, there's a new right tackle, and now they got 3 wide, and now they're going to send you're so into, now they got 6 in the secondary, and now they only got 2 in the line. They're going to drop 4. Like all this stuff is going on, right? So these cats are drunks, or they're operating within the framework of your call. So
right.
I don't know, like if a guy runs right through the slot receiver position, as he did, a couple of years ago, here's a guy, oh my gosh, he's run right through this. He's on the field and no one's chasing him. And there he goes. No, there's definitely a moment of pause. There's a governor in your head that says, okay, dope. Let's make sure that, and listen, I think I've done my last call of that. I may just refer to it just kind of, off to the side. Like you, both of you, I respect the business, and I love the position that we're into broadcast, and just completely feel honored every time I put on that headset about calling the NFL or the NBA, and feeling like, this is, there's so many people that would love this job, and here I've got it, and don't make a mockery of it, and don't disrespect it. And so I hope people do take it in the sense that it is fun and kind of a goofy part of the game. And it's nice to have a little bit of a sideshow. And if no one's being hurt and there's no name, and of course you don't want people running on the field, but I guess after I've said it, I regret it. And I just go like,
well,
oh my God,
you should not regret it.
What have I done? Like, come on, just get a grip.
It's so good.
Well, you're nice to say that. I appreciate that from you. And I, like I said, I think, you do it a couple times, maybe it's okay. And then after that, you just say, all right, done it. Let's move on.
Yeah.
I tell you what, man, this is such a treat for me. I've always looked up to Money in LA, being here for the last 15 years. And Kevin, you're the best of the best. It's so great to see you at SoFi Stadium. We look forward to seeing you on Sunday. And we always know it's a big game when you're in the building.
Oh, very kind words, Chris. Thank you, Matt. I love being on with you guys. We love your new building. It's so wonderful. LA's got 2 teams. They're both prominent now in the league. They're in the conversation for amongst the best, and that's great. And to have a quarterback who's going to be here for another 15 years, like this guy, you just know, right? He just has all the markings of a guy that is going to be around. This is going to be an incredible journey for you two to chronicle, and no two better people to do it than you. But thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
I was out there last Monday. I'm going to be out there this Sunday. Then I got to go to Baltimore to do a Monday night game, then back to Los Angeles for Tuesday Lakers. So I'm going to see a lot of LA here the next couple of days, and I don't mind that at all. I always like getting out there. It's a lot of fun.
Well, enjoy the little bit of downtime that you have, however tiny a sliver it is. Hopefully it's good to you, and we always appreciate it, Kevin. It means the world to us. You're the
Thank
best,
you,
man.
and same to me. It's a privilege to be on. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Chris. Always a pleasure.
All right, guys, before we get to Brandon Thorn, a quick note to let you know that Pepsi, they're passing out the ultimate Chargers fan experience only at 7-Eleven. You want to rush in and scan the code to enter for a chance to win some awesome prizes. Bolt up with Pepsi. No purchase necessary. Must be 18 years or older to enter. Sponsor PepsiCo. For official rules, visit boltupla.com/7-Eleven. All right, buddy, let's bring in Brandon Thorn. And I love visiting with Brandon. Nobody knows the offensive line, the defensive line better. And Brandon, Browns, Chargers, probably, based on talking to you, probably the two best pass rushers in football sharing the field Sunday. You would agree?
Definitely up there. Yeah, they're among the top five for sure. It's going to be fun, and it's really because Bosa and Myles Garrett. I don't know if you said pass rushes as a unit or players, but I do think player wise these are the two best in the game. So
yeah, player wise.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, definitely. TJ Watt always has an argument there, but for me, like in terms of pure skill, I think Myles Garrett and Bosa are kind of the cream of the crop. And then, they also have all the physical ability as well to go with it. But yeah, they're so much fun to watch. It's going to be awesome.
As someone that studies it as extensively as you do, Brandon, is there anything a team can do to slow down Myles Garrett? Have you seen any team have success against him?
Not really in one-on-one situations, but avoiding those, I think, is the one way to do it. And you could do that in a multitude of different ways. I think some teams do that really well. Generally, like, the Chiefs come to mind as a team who, they run screens really well. They condense the formations and then put a lot of bodies around the defensive ends to kind of create a little hesitation pre-snap. Put a tight end over there, slide the protection his way, running back chips, all the creative different ways that you can do it to slow down an outside pass rusher specifically, I think need to be done against Garrett, regardless of who your tackles are. And then he also rushes inside as well. He switches sides, he rushes inside over a guard. So that's what makes him so difficult. And a lot of the elite guys is they can move around and play over different guys. So you can't eliminate one-on-ones totally, but I think there's a lot of different ways that teams do that. And it's like a requirement in the game plan when you face Myles Garrett.
Hey, Rashawn Slater, through the first 4 games, playing at really an elite level. I don't know if you could assess just the way he's played, not just among rookies, but among all left tackles in the league, Brandon.
Yeah, he's hit the ground running, obviously, and he's, I think his technique is just excellent. And I think that's really how he's winning. He's consistent with things like his stance, his footwork, his use of leverage with his hands and his pads are always kind of in sync and on point. He doesn't put himself in a lot of compromising positions. He's just fundamentally sound. And I think that puts him, it's very conducive for success, in the run and pass game. But one thing that stood out to me is in the run game, him getting out in space and leading up to the second and third levels to me has been so fun to watch. And it's, I think, indicative of what you want to see out of a franchise left tackle, a guy who can really kind of spearhead the run game in that way. I think that's been really cool to watch. We didn't get to really see that a whole lot in Northwestern. So that's really cool. But yeah, there's been a handful of losses in pass protection. Bradley Anae, that inside cross chop move he got on him was one. And I think there was one bull rush either the week before, I think, that got him a little bit, on his heels. But that's kind of nitpicking. I mean, everybody loses some reps, Trent Williams, Bakhtiari, all those guys. So all in all, I think he's certainly in the conversation for one of the 5 best left tackles so far this season. And as a rookie, that's outstanding. So,
yeah. The one thing about that too, Brandon, is and kind of maybe either, I guess, agree or correct me on this. It's overshadowed Corey Linsley. And I felt like this last game against the Raiders was really the Corey Linsley game, and what you saw on the left side of that line, just from Slater to Filer to Linsley, and what they were able to do in the run game looked like it was real effective when they ran that way. As you've looked at Linsley, he's the highest paid center. He's been celebrated as the best center in the game. Like, what have you seen from him through 4 games? And I don't know, did it feel to you like maybe he took a step in this game against the Raiders? It felt like his presence was there a little bit more than in the first 3.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, I don't necessarily know the reasons for it, but it looks like he's settled down a little bit, but gotten more comfortable with the guys next to him. I mean, he was in the Green Bay scheme and around similar guys for so long that maybe just took him a couple games to get his feet underneath him, so to speak. And I mean, I think the Raider game was his best game of the season. And Linsley, last year, I know he was very highly graded, by, Pro Football Focus and stuff that, suggested he was the best center in the game, which I think he has an argument for. I'm not necessarily sure that he's ever necessarily been the best center in the game, but he's certainly among the best. He could do everything pretty well. He can kind of quarterback the line and, really help a young quarterback. And I think those are things that we haven't really seen maybe as much. They're harder to identify. So I think that's a huge part of his value. And then just the stuff in the zone run game specifically, he's just really good as a zone run blocker. And we saw a lot of that last week. The run game in general, though, I think it's just been, especially last week too, but just impressive the way that the guys have worked together on double teams and stuff like that. It's been fun to watch. But yeah, Linsley, he's a stud. He's a good player. I'm excited to watch him the rest of the year, but it was an encouraging performance because I do think there was some improvement there.
Brandon, you have some great film breakdowns on YouTube. I know week 2, you broke down both lines of the Cowboys and Chargers, and obviously Joey Bosa was in there. Joey was wrecking the game on Monday night. What have you seen from him early on? Especially, this is a new scheme for him, this Brandon Staley defense. How would you assess the way Joey has played, specifically this past Monday night?
Man, to me, it's, more of the same stuff. I mean, that big sack that he had, was using his signature side scissors move that Larry Johnson, the defensive line coach at Ohio State, teaches his guys. And it seems like Joey is the poster child for what it should look like. And that move is it's lethal, because he gets guys to stop their feet. And then he just hits that little double swipe side scissors move to knock down their hand, and he wins the corner. And he has such good ability to turn the corner and get his hips around blockers. It's just uncanny. And, he's doing that again this year. He can rush from inside. He can win with power. His spin move is, deadly. And you typically think of like Von Miller having a great spin move, but Joey Bosa has a great one. So he can just win in every way imaginable. And the great thing about Joey, I think his game is everything is so reactionary. And it's based on what the offensive line is doing. So if there's a weakness, he's going to pick up on it and he's going to exploit it, on the drop of a dime. And it's just it's beautiful to watch. And I mean, a rookie right tackle facing him, is always tough. And Alex Leatherwood and Joey, I think, capitalized on that. He faced Sam Cosmi a few weeks ago, definitely capitalized on that. I mean, he's just one of those guys. If you have a rookie, especially, it's probably going to be a long day. It's just the way it is.
Speaking of that Cowboy game, Brandon, to me, the toughest nut to crack and figure out this season through 4 games has been Jerry Tillery. The Cowboy game was really rough for Jerry, but man, I feel like he has really bounced back these last 2 weeks. I feel like when we're, as we're calling the game in the middle of it, it just feels like he's got a presence. What have you seen from Tillery? Have you been able to figure him out yet?
It's always kind of fluid with most of the league. I think, there's not a lot of bad or great. It's all kind of in the middle, for the most part, I think, with players. And he's been up and down. I think his run defense is really his weakness. It's the weak part of his game. And just, he's not necessarily undersized. I think he's listed like 295 or something. But, so it's not size. He had the rep against Dallas against Zach Martin where he roots his feet, shuts down Martin, and then tosses him to the side and makes this tackle. And it's like, holy crap. And then, a few plays before, or I think it was a handful of plays before, he gets, driven, 8 yards across the field on his back by Terrence Steele. So it's like, kind of up and down that way. But I think as a rusher is really, where he brings his value. I remember watching him at Notre Dame and just some of the stuff he did there, using his quickness and, to be disruptive and get penetration and things like that. So, I still think we see that this year from him as a rusher. I would just like to see his run defense, still continue to be more consistent. It doesn't even have to be like great. If it could just get to like an average solid level, I think that would really allow him to be a more valuable player, because as a rusher, I think he's a pretty valuable guy, a nice part of a rotation.
Brandon, so many Chargers fans have been so invested in the Chargers' new look offensive line, trench warfare. You do awesome work, man. Can you just kind of pub what you're doing, where to find you as we kind of get through this year? And I know you have amazing breakdowns that Chargers fans want to see.
Yeah, sure. So you can visit my website. It's trenchwarfare.substack.com. And that's a newsletter. When you sign up, all my content will be delivered to your inbox. I have a free version and a subscription version. So just different work there that you can get. So I'm doing a lot of film breakdowns now that people have liked, and I really love doing those. I just came out with a big project called the True Sack Rate, which I chart every sack in the NFL. And I basically assign a value to it, if it's high quality, low quality, cleanup, coverage. And it's a tool to evaluate pass rushers, I think. So I just came up with that. That just published today. So that's going to be ongoing, updated every week. So between that and the film rooms, you can find all my stuff there. And then I do stuff for other places as well. I evaluate college offensive linemen for Bleacher Report. So just got my hand in a few different places, but trench warfare is the main spot.
I got to finish up with this real quick, Brandon, for people that are listening and trying to picture you in their mind's eye. As you're cutting up all the film and you're doing all your work, I'm trying to wrap my brain around what's playing in the background. And I can't decide if it's like Napalm Death level thrash metal, if it's maybe a step below that, it's like Pantera level. Or if it's maybe just a little bit below, or is it punk rock? Like, are you in maybe like the hardcore lane with like Circle Jerks and that sort of stuff? Like what's playing in the background when you're doing all your film work, when you're listening to music?
Oh man, honestly, I listen to a lot of podcasts. So that's primarily how, yeah. I mean, podcast is the main way. If I listen to music, honestly, I mean, I grew up in California and Florida, and I mean, like old school R&B. I mean,
it could not have been more off.
That's it.
Could not have been more like. Are you like talking like Al B. Sure, like that kind of old school?
Like Jagged Edge.
Okay.
This is like Daniel Jeremiah's style, like
exactly.
He breaks
that is
down
DJ.
film.
Yeah, exactly. That is DJ style.
I grew up on a lot of that stuff, and I could put it on and I feel good, and
there we go.
I can get into the zone on that. I mean, hardcore rock, that's not, if I'm at the gym maybe, but watching film.
See, this guy judging the book by its cover. You look like the bass player from Stained or something like that, but that is not the case as far as your musical taste go.
That's funny.
Listening to Keith Sweat.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do Keith Sweat. I mean, there's Genuine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. See, I'm a little bit older, so I'm like digging back into like Troop and but yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
The image in Money's mind changed very quickly.
And I had a feeling that was going to happen too. I was like, I know how this ends. I know this is going to make a fool of me because this is how it always works with me. That's great. Thank you, Brandon.
Oh yeah,
Brandon, you're awesome, dude. We had a blast earlier this year, and would love to have you back as we continue to kind of check out this Chargers offensive line and see how they gel throughout the year.
Absolutely. Just let me know.
All right, buddy, let's bring in our guy, Joe Reedy, Associated Press. And I think most people know this. Joe is an Ohio football man. So he's very well versed in the Bengals and Browns, and he also covers the Chargers. Joe, appreciate your time, man.
No problem. It's AFC North year with Browns and Bengals, the once every 3-year cycle where you guys get to make the trip at least one time to Ohio, but this time Ohio comes here.
From what, don't know how close tabs you're keeping on the two teams, Joe, but when you look at this Browns team and you think about how long it's taken to get to this point, all the draft capital that they have invested, are you at all surprised that they are where they are right now? This to me looks like the best roster top to bottom in the NFL and in the AFC, perhaps, if you just go depth included. I don't know if there's a better one out there.
It's taken a long time and a whole lot of draft capital. They finally got the right GM head coach combination, which is important. Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. Back in after 2018 and going into that, Kevin Stefanski was the finalist. Under the John Dorsey reign and everything, that didn't work out. They decided to keep Freddie Kitchens from within, and then when 2019 was disappointing, they decided to go in another direction again. And I think with Andrew Berry, what he's been able to do, and then bringing in Stefanski, who's got a close tie with analytics and everything, I think a lot of the decisions we've seen with Brandon Staley, we saw last year with Kevin Stefanski on the analytics front. So it's all finally coming together, and it was a team that got confidence last year under a first-year head coach. Really, I think the similarities between the Chargers this year and the Browns last year, there's a whole lot at this point with the run and everything, and finally having a quarterback and philosophy and everything that I think Browns fans have been starving for so long that, at the 3-1 start, it's like, knock on wood, everything's going well. Let's just hope it continues.
Joe, the offense, I think the one thing, if you could point to something that may not be going as well as they would envision, is just the play of Baker Mayfield the last couple of weeks. And it looks like there's a shoulder issue, and he's not going to make excuses about it. But what do you make of his play through the first quarter of the season? And, when you have a rushing attack with Hunt and Chubb, and both guys are averaging over 5 yards a clip, it seems like they're going to have to rely on them a little bit more so, especially with Jarvis Landry out.
Yeah, Baker's doing what Kevin Stefanski and that offense want him to do, with the running game and everything, and it being heavily geared toward the run. Now, the torn labrum and the non-throwing shoulder says a lot about the accuracy the last 2 weeks, and also considering that this is a passing attack that relies more on down the field throws. They're not really the short passing game that we've seen with the Chargers. I mean, Baker will throw a lot to Kareem Hunt when he's out there, but as far as Odell, Higgins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, the tight ends, it's more of the beyond 5 yards, the more the 10 to 15 yard throws instead of those short throws. And the accuracy is going to go down. The one other area that Baker has a huge benefit to is he's got a great offensive line now. I think I saw on Pro Football Talk that 2 or 3 members of that offensive line are on the all after 4 games first team. So that helps. But I think the interesting thing too is with the number of quarterbacks the Browns have had throughout the years, and it kind of, when you look at number of quarterbacks and the people with the jerseys with the quarterbacks' names, they haven't had to resurrect that for the last 3 years since the Browns have
It's
had
true.
starting stability. Baker still among the Browns fan base gets a whole lot of criticism, and it's an important year for him because they're trying to figure out whether to give him a long-term extension or not. So Baker, maybe not as much in the national spotlight, but certainly in the Cleveland spotlight. There is a lot of focus on him, just trying to figure out if he is the guy who deserves that large contract, and I'm sure that's wearing on him as well.
When you prep for the game and you're watching a lot of, Browns footage film, or I hate saying film, but whatever, when you're watching the Browns, Myles Garrett is just terrifying. I mean, he is an absolute nightmare. Going through his pressures, he's like, it truly does things that defy logic. Instead of just asking you to celebrate Myles Garrett, I think we can all agree this is someone who might be the best player in the NFL across the board. Do you think it matters to Justin Herbert? Just kind of watching him last year, the amount of pressure he was under, how he operated, watching him last week, on Monday night, I should say, against Max Crosby, who seemingly was in his lap all the time, or Ngakoue, it just doesn't seem to matter. To me, like, that's the most surprising thing about Herbert 19 starts into his career is, even if he gets pressure, it just seems like he knows how to make the right decision or protect the football when he needs to.
And I think that the huge key that we were wondering with this offense, and we finally got that answered this past week, was, will the running game begin to thrive, and how does this new offensive line do run blocking? And it very much passed the test on Monday. And I think the run game did a good job too against Washington. Were the thing that I'm wondering, because we had Austin at the podium yesterday, is it going to be the same game plan with Washington as far as blocking, as far as, helping out maybe more with max protections, but also, will this be the game where Austin is the true running back and doesn't get many opportunities getting the ball out of the backfield? And there's going to be a lot of quick passes. There's going to be more quick throws. Mike Williams had one reception on Monday night. That isn't going to happen this time. I think he's going to be targeted a lot more. I think with Justin's calm and cool demeanor, but also with Joe Lombardi's game plan, this isn't going to phase him. Now, Vegas and Browns are kind of similar, where they had somebody else other than Max Crosby to bring pressure. But you got Jadeveon Clowney on the other side. You got 2 number 1 overall picks, and also the rookie out of Notre Dame, Jeremiah
Owusu-Koramoah, yeah.
Yes. Otherwise known as Jock in Cleveland.
There you go. There you go.
Yes, otherwise known as Jock in Cleveland. He can bring a certain amount of pressure too. So, Myles Garrett is a terrifying human being for a quarterback, just with his size and speed, and what he did against Chicago and a mobile quarterback. It was like, my goodness gracious. I hate quoting Susan Waldman, but I will on this point. But this defensive line will probably be the most stiff challenge that the Chargers offensive line will face all year.
Joe, Brandon Staley has been celebrated on Twitter after the game. And I think there was a clip about him talking about just the running game and play action.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's all over it. And you've seen Brandon from his first presser to where we are now in week 5. There's so much to be impressed by. In what ways have you been impressed with just the operation? 3-1 right now. This Chargers team has not been 2-0 in the division since 2012. I mean, and I feel like they're still trying to figure things out. They're stacking wins in September, knowing that they're still ascending. What's impressed you most about just what Brandon's doing right now, especially in season?
He's got a team. The way he goes about things and the way that he gets it across to the players, because I think they talked about the Thursday meetings where And Brandon talked about this earlier in the year, explaining the philosophy and then getting down to the nitty gritty and stuff. But the fact also that these Thursday meetings, he's getting everybody together to talk about what all three phases are doing. So all 53 or 47 or 48, depending on the roster who lines up for the game. I mean, the kicker knows what the offense is going to do. The kicker knows what the defense is going to do. Everybody has a shared accountability. And this team also just has the confidence that no matter what, things are going to go well. I mean, let's face it, 2 out of the first 3 weeks, they took a massive punch in the second half with turnovers and what have you. Defense gets the turnover back. Offense scores the game-winning touchdown. We haven't seen that since 2018, the playoff year. And it's just very much right now complimentary football because, let's face it, we saw the first 6 games before the bye week. Playoff team in Washington, near playoff team in Dallas last year, and America's team and fan base and everything. You got to go to Kansas City. Arrowhead's always a challenge. You know, Raiders, division game, rivalry, Monday night. And now you've got the 2 AFC North games, Cleveland and Baltimore. Playoff teams back to back. I think everybody thought if you could be over 500, you're playing with house money. If you could get to 2-4 at the bye, you were still looking pretty good for the more favorable stretch of the schedule. And to be at 3-1 right now, I mean, they're sitting on a huge the good thing they're sitting on a huge stack of chips. Bad thing, 3 teams in the AFC North, 3 teams in the AFC West now are at 3-1. And I think with the way the East and South are going to be, the North and West are going to be fighting for the wild card spots right now. So, you know, that's the other thing about this week's game. It's a huge, you know, for further positioning when we get to week 14 and 15 as far as, you know, not only division leads, but wild cards where everything's going to shake out.
Yeah, one of the things that we brought up on the broadcast, Joe, is, you know, they're 2-0 in division now. And if you go back to the 12-4 year, you know, that's why they were a wild card team and not the home team through the AFC playoffs. You know, they split with the Chiefs, but the Chiefs had a better division record than the Chargers, and they end up, I think it was a conference record. They had a better conference record than the Chargers, so they end up staying home. So to be 2-0 in the division now, like you said, through this gauntlet before the bye, I think is also a big benefit. We talk like, I don't know if we find ourselves falling into this habit just because we see the Chargers every week. So it's not that it becomes old hat, but you're sort of talking about the same thing. So we end up talking about the opponents more, you know, oh, Myles Garrett and man, that offensive line that's been revamped and that rushing attack. I feel like we have not talked enough. And I don't know if you feel like you've written enough about him, but I just feel like Joey Bosa is not getting the attention he deserves as far as being in that conversation with Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald as a legitimate defensive MVP. The sack numbers don't pop, but my God, the pressures, the hits, the hurries. I think he's off to the best start that he has had in his career.
I mean, and the other thing too is we were all wondering how Joey was going to play this year without Melvin Ingram on the other side. Who was going to step up or help? And the rest of the defensive line, the rest of that linebacker group has played very well. But Joey's still getting double and triple teamed and is out on an island a lot. And still, you know, 4 games in, 2.5 sacks, a number of pressures, number of quarterback hits, and playing what essentially, too, is a new position for him is kind of that rush linebacker where he's, you know, as a stand-up part of the time where he's got to drop back into coverage mode part of the time, too. And granted it's rare, is still, you know, pretty good. And on a new defense, too, with a ton of different schemes and reading motions and doing adjustments and everything. I mean, the guy's been a certifiable All-Pro nearly every year, and this might be his best start so as well too. But I think the other thing too is We saw it last year, and we're kind of seeing it this year too. You've got an individual that I think for the first time as a pro, and maybe going back to Ohio State too, is comfortable in his own skin. I mean, from 2018-19, Joey approaching the media and reporters and just in general. I don't know, Chris, how he's done with you and money and interviews and stuff. Joey is generally enjoying being an NFL player and one of the highest paid defensive players in the game. He is generally having fun with it in his own unique way and everything too.
Joe, he's hilarious. He's hilarious. Yeah. I mean, that one presser when he had the energy drink, it was like it was stand up. It was a stand up day.
I think that Joey Bosa of 2016 to 19 doesn't go off on the officials like he did Monday night.
Yeah.
That's a guy that's comfortable in his own skin and is like, you know what? I'm the second or third highest paid defensive player in the league. I have the money to pay the fine, but also I'm gonna say what I want and not feel bad about the repercussions. And I think that, you know, just seeing him get comfortable and everything is. I voted for him for the Good Guy Award last year. Hunter Henry eventually got it, but you know, just seeing. I think media and fans and all of us are seeing the Joey Bosa in the locker room and how he's around teammates. We're finally getting to see that, and I think that's wonderful to see. Just, you know, on field, we know what you're going to get with Joey, but now seeing the true personality and stuff too has been great.
Joe, we'll get you out of here on this, man. What do the Chargers need to do to get to 4-1 against a really good Browns team? What do you think is going to be the key?
Turnovers and special teams. It seems like we say that a lot. You know, especially in this game, I think turnovers are going to factor huge. Whoever has the advantage on turnovers is going to win. And I think special teams wise, it seems like we're always in the 6th degree of separation from Chargers when it comes to kickers. We've got another, I think, 2nd or 3rd degree of separation this week with Chase McLaughlin, who has been kicking very, very well for Cleveland. In fact, his percentage and kicking in that stadium surprises me. And you know, just in this series too, they don't play a lot, but Chargers have won 5 out of the last 7. I think Chargers fans remember that 2016 game because it was Cleveland's only win, and Browns fans still thank the Chargers for 32 game or 35 game losing streak that could have developed off of that since the Browns went winless the next season. But you know, the 2018 game in Cleveland, Chargers dominated that game and played very well, and that was one of the few games where Nick Chubb was a non-factor, and that was probably out of 1 or 2 the worst Baker Mayfield games out of the year. So, you know, Chargers come in with a lot of momentum at home too, and I know a lot of California Browns fans and fairly pretty good Northeast Ohio contingent's going to be out here. Not at the level of maybe Cowboys or Raiders fans, but it'll also be a more civilized crowd. Let me put it that way. The dog pound has come civilized. So should be fun Sunday afternoon. Looking forward to it.
Joe breaking up both sides for us today, buddy. Browns and Chargers. He can do it all. We'll see you at SoFi on Sunday, Joe. Appreciate it, man.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, buddy. Jam-packed show. A lot of good guests. And I guess I want to close it with you and just your thoughts and your keys to this game as the Chargers try to get to 4-1.
Well, you know, it seemed like it was a theme with all of our guests, right? To me, this is going to be a low-scoring game, I think. You know, just Joey and Myles Garrett and these defenses are so good. And Joe Reedy said it. I think it's turnovers, it's special teams. This to me is not a Chiefs, 30-24 or even, 21 quick ones against the Raiders. To me, this is going to look a lot like that Vikings game did, that Vikings-Browns game did. It's going to be tough to come by points. And, I think you take the field goals when they're there, stay aggressive on 4th down, but To me, if points present themselves, go on and get them, because I could totally see this being a 2017, 17-14 style game.
That's going to do it for us. Be sure to download and subscribe to the Chargers Podcast Network, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're on Chargers.com, the official Chargers app. Have a great weekend. We hope to see you at SoFi Stadium on Sunday. For the voice of the Chargers, Matt Money Smith, I'm Chris Hayre.